A 22-year-old man is in custody and expected to be charged with the assassination of right-wing commentator Charlie Kirk. The suspect has been identified as Tyler Robinson, who was recognized by relatives in CCTV images that were released to the public. Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen joins us live now with the latest. Annalise, investigators seem pretty confident they have their man.
And look, this is after there were a few false starts with this. Two separate people were brought into custody and then later released. And so the pressure really was on to make sure that this was the right person. And investigators say they have a number of bits of evidence, so they're confident it is. The reports are that he's not talking to police and that it was his family that handed him in, reaching out to a family friend who then notified the sheriffs after witnessing all the footage that was released by the FBI and the governor's office the day before, as they fought frantically to track down who was responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which has just erupted across America as a huge story issue around violence and politics. And so they really did need to track him down. What they've said essentially is they have now enough bits of evidence that they can confirm that this is the right person, but he still is yet to be charged. They're saying that will happen next Tuesday. Here's how this news unfolded today. It was first announced by President Donald Trump at an appearance on Fox, and then later officials gave a formal press conference.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate. And
they are more confident now that he acted alone, and the question, of course, has been around what was the motivation. One of the clues that they have are the messages he carved into the bullets that were left at the scene. Now, the first one was a bullet casing, which was from the single bullet that was fired. On it was an engraving that said, "Notices, bulges, OWO, what's this?" So that's a reference, we've now learned, to a popular internet meme which references a community who call themselves furries, who are people who cosplay animals, and it's quite the subsection of the internet. Then on the other bullets that were engraved, these unfired casings, the first one said, "Hey fascist, catch," and then had these arrow markings. That's apparently a reference to some online war games. The second was "Oh Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao." That's a reference, we've been told, to a song that's often used by an anti-fascist movement, anti-capitalist movement. And then the last one was "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." And the inference we've been told there is just simply a puerile joke. And so this gives you some insight, and it should be noted that yesterday there was reporting saying that there was transgender ideology written on the bullets. That was reported initially by the Wall Street Journal, and it appears that that was something of a misinterpretation by whoever put that information out there. This is all that the FBI has told us that there has been engraved on these bullets. And what we have also seen is now tracking exactly how he managed to escape the way he did. The roommate of this 22-year-old Tyler Robinson has given investigators messages where he was asking to have that gun that he disposed of wrapped in a towel near the university campus picked up, which obviously didn't happen, and that he really did make his way out. And it was essentially some off comments to a family member that seemed to suggest he was responsible, put together with how he'd been behaving recently, was enough for the family members to essentially dob him in.
Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And It was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those, and specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence.
You can hear just how emotional this was for the governor of Utah there. This has been echoed across the country and indeed the world. This was a global youth movement turning point, and we can see here these are photos from a vigil held in Sydney last night of people who were connected to the Turning Point movement or simply wanted to show their respects for Charlie Kirk after his assassination. So the question for many is what happens next? How does the country move forward from this? And there was this kind of extraordinarily honest answer from Donald Trump when he was asked about this on Fox News earlier today.
How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy.
So we are waiting to see if he does speak to investigators. As I mentioned before, they are waiting to lay formal charges. They're now reporting until potentially Tuesday. But the other thing to take into consideration is he could be facing state charges and federal charges. And they're also going to be looking at the opportunity, it sounds like, to pursue the death penalty against him.
Annalise, you're there in the thick of it. What does it feel like being in America right now? Has it created even more division and debate? We already knew there was a huge argument and discussion going on about gun culture anyway, and clearly you've got a suspect that looks like he's come from a conservative background, comfortable with guns, now responsible potentially, allegedly, for killing someone who was all about advocating for keeping guns, even if it meant there were, quote, some deaths each year.
Yeah, and this is just the ongoing discussion in the United States. It's such a culturally embedded thing for so many people that they don't want to give an inch on it. Frankly, if there was ever going to be a president who could actually move the dial on this, it probably would be Donald Trump, because he has the trust of enough of a key part of the population here. But the other thing I just caution against is just trying to generalize people too much into categories. Families can be quite unique. We don't really know too much about the family he came from just yet. And the other thing I would say is just anyone who's had a family member with these kind of, I'm going to say that there's quite a high likelihood that there's some kind of mental health issue involved here. That doesn't mean he's any less culpable or that there should be any kind of difference in treatment punishment if he is indeed found guilty by a court of law, and they seem very confident in the evidence they have. But these things kind of do hold very good families captive sometimes. So I wouldn't make any assumptions just yet. And I do believe that some of the family members are starting to speak out, so we might get a bit more insight there as well.
Yeah, Annalise Nilsson, appreciate that point. Many thanks indeed. More from Annalise later in the morning.